It feels like everywhere you look online lately, especially, say, since 2020, you see terms like manifestation or
Mm.
um, lucky girl syndrome.
Oh, definitely. It's all over TikTok, Instagram, self-help circles too.
Right. It feels so new, so current. But you're saying this isn't really a new trend at all. It's more like an old idea with like a new coat of paint.
That's exactly it. And that's what we're diving into today. We're going deep into the law of attraction, manifestation, looking at its history, the science side, or lack thereof, its cultural impact.
Okay. So the mission here is to kind of unpack it all, separate the maybe mystical stuff from what might actually be psychologically sound, and maybe touch on some ethical things too.
Precisely. We want to give you a really clear picture of what this belief system is, why it keeps coming back, and why it seems to resonate so strongly with people right now.
All right, let's start with the basics then. What exactly is the law of attraction? Lie, right?
Yeah, LOA. At its core, it's presented as a spiritual belief. The main idea is that your thoughts, positive or negative, have this power to attract corresponding experiences into your life.
So the thinking is your thoughts are energy,
Hmm.
and like attracts like.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Proponents claim that people and their thoughts are made of pure energy, and this like attracts like principle isn't just a tendency, it's an immutable law of the universe.
Immutable, like gravity. They really put it on that level.
They do, or at least the early proponents did. They argued it's always operating, constantly bringing you conditions and experiences that match your predominant mental attitude, was the phrase often used.
Wow. Okay, so if you're always positive, good stuff comes. If you're negative, well,
Yeah,
not so much.
that's the gist of it, yeah.
And how do they, back that up? The gravity comparison is bold.
Well, it's not really backed up in a scientific sense with empirical evidence. It's presented more as a fundamental truth, a metaphysical principle you accept and work with. Less about proof, more about belief.
Okay, which leads us to the modern terms, right? Manifestation and lucky girl syndrome.
Right. Manifestation is basically the modern buzzword for low A. It covers all these self-help strategies people use: visualization, asking the universe for things, taking certain actions, all aimed at making wishes come true.
And lucky girl syndrome. That one seems even more direct.
It really is. It's like low A distilled down. Believe you're lucky, affirm you're lucky, act like you're lucky, and you'll attract good fortune. Simple as that, supposedly.
It's interesting how the language changed. Law of attraction sounds so scientific almost. But manifestation feels different. Why the shift, do you think?
That's a really key point. Calling it a law invited scientific challenges,
Yeah.
which, frankly, it couldn't withstand. It got labeled pseudoscience.
Right.
But manifestation, well, that frames it more as personal growth, maybe a spiritual practice. It sidesteps the direct scientific debate. It sounds less like physics and more like, I don't know, a wellness technique.
That makes sense. It sheds the baggage, appeals to maybe a younger audience, perhaps one skeptical of things like The Secret.
Exactly. It's a clever rebranding, intentional or not. It made it much more marketable for today's world.
So the absolute core idea, whether you call it low A or manifestation, is this belief that we create our own reality
Yeah.
with our thoughts, not just influencing how we feel, but actually changing external stuff.
Yes. And the mechanism they propose is this concept of vibrational frequency.
Ah, yes. The vibration.
The idea is every thought has a specific vibration. To manifest something, you need to align your mental and emotional vibrations with the thing you desire.
And it's not just thinking, I want a new job.
No, that's critical. You have to feel it. Feel as if you already have the job. That feeling creates the resonance, the magnetic pull, according to the theory.
Okay, so now that we've got a handle on the modern version, you mentioned this isn't new. Where does it actually come from?
It goes way back. We're talking 19th century America, the 1830s onwards. It emerged from something called the New Thought movement.
New Thought. Never heard of it.
It's not super widely known by that name now, but its ideas are everywhere. It started partly as a reaction against some traditional Christian doctrines, things like original sin, eternal damnation. People were looking for something more empowering, maybe?
And it was connected to other movements back then?
Yeah, it was part of a broader intellectual and spiritual awakening. Think transcendentalism, Emerson, Thoreau. Also influences from things like theosophy. The central theme across New Thought was this radical idea. Thoughts are primary. Thoughts shape reality.
Who are the key players in getting this started?
The generally acknowledged founder is a man named Phineas Parkhurst Quimby. He was originally a clockmaker, actually.
A clockmaker.
Okay.
Yeah.
He got into mesmerism, but then developed his own system of mental healing. He rejected the idea that mesmerism worked through magnetic fluids. Instead, he believed illness started in the mind from wrong beliefs.
So fix the thought, fix the body.
Essentially. His famous quote is something like, "The trouble is in the mind, for the body is only the house for the mind to dwell in." Modern science would look at his results and say, suggestion, placebo effect.
Right. Makes sense.
But he laid the groundwork, and then others built on it significantly.
Like who?
Well, there was Emma Curtis Hopkins. She was hugely influential, known as the teacher of teachers, trained many key figures. Some even say she coined the name New Thought.
Okay.
Then you have Prentice Mulford. He wrote essays collected in a work called Your Forces and How to Use Them, where he really hammered home this idea that thoughts are things. He explicitly linked your mental state to your life circumstances. That was pretty pivotal for Lowe.
And someone actually used the phrase law of attraction back then.
Yes, William Walker Atkinson. In 1906, he published a book called Thought Vibration, or The Law of Attraction in the Thought World. Pretty explicit.
Wow, 1906.
But maybe the most directly influential figure for our modern era was Wallace D. Wattles.
Wattles.
His 1910 book, The Science of Getting Rich. It really took these new thought ideas and systematized them, specifically for achieving financial success. And that book was the direct inspiration for Rhonda Byrne when she created The Secret.
No kidding. So The Secret basically repackaged Wattles from 1910.
Pretty much, yeah. Polished up for a modern audience, but the core ideas are right there in Wattles.
That's fascinating. It wasn't just individual writers either, right? It became a movement.
Yes, absolutely. It didn't just stay as philosophical ideas. People formed actual spiritual organizations. You got the Unity Church, founded by Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, that's still quite large today. Then the Church of Divine Science, religious science, founded by Ernest Holmes. These became established denominations, and they even created umbrella groups like the International New Thought Alliance in 1914 to kind of coordinate things.
So it went from one guy's mental healing ideas to organized religion, essentially.
In a way, yes. Seeing that evolution really shows you the structure behind this belief system. It wasn't just a fad, it was institutionalized.
Okay, so fast forward to today. People are talking about manifesting. How are they actually doing it? What are the tools in the manifestation toolkit?
Right. It's not just sitting around thinking positive thoughts. There's a whole range of practices. On the mental and emotional side, visualization is huge.
Like daydreaming.
More structured than that. You're meant to create really vivid mental images of what you want. Engage all your senses. What does it look like, sound like, smell like? And critically, generate the feeling of having it already.
The feeling part again.
It's central. Then you have positive affirmations, repeating statements like, "I am abundant," or "I attract success" over and over to reprogram limiting beliefs.
Makes sense.
There's also scripting or journaling, writing about your desired life as if it's happening now. "I am so grateful for my amazing new apartment," that kind of thing. The idea is to trick your subconscious.
Tricking the brain.
Okay.
Okay. And gratitude journals fit in here too.
Definitely. Focusing on what you're grateful for is supposed to shift you into an abundance mindset and raise your vibrational frequency. Get you on the right wavelength, so to speak.
And before all that, you have to know what you want, right?
Absolutely. Setting clear, specific intentions is step one. Not just, "I want more money," but "I intend to receive an extra $5,000 by December 31st. Specificity is key in most manifestation teachings.
Okay, so that's the mental stuff. What about physical actions or things people do?
Good question. Vision boards are very popular. Collages of pictures and words representing your goals. You put it somewhere visible as a constant reminder.
I've seen those.
Decluttering is another one. The idea is to clear out physical clutter, messy desk, overflowing closet, but also digital clutter, like your inbox, and even emotional clutter.
Emotional clutter, like what?
Like old grudges or negative feelings. Some recommend writing them down and then destroying the paper, symbolically releasing that negative energy.
Interesting. Any other techniques?
Oh, yeah. There are things like numerological methods. The 369 method is trendy. Write your desire 3 times in the morning, 6 times midday, 9 times at night. Structured repetition.
369. Huh.
And new ones pop up all the time online. The whisper method, visualizing, whispering your intention to someone, or creating a manifestation box to physically put your written goals into. It's constantly evolving.
Listening to all this, something strikes me as well, a bit contradictory. I call it the action paradox.
What do you mean by that?
Well, the purest form of low A, the really old school stuff, sometimes suggests action isn't needed. Like, if you really believe, it will just come to you. Taking action might even show you doubt the universe, right? I think Esther Hicks says something like that.
That's true. Some interpretations are very passive, emphasizing belief and feeling above all else. That's where the magical thinking critique often comes in.
But then, most modern teachers do tell you to take action. Inspired action, they call it. You have to meet the universe halfway or something.
Exactly. And this is where it gets tricky. It creates a situation where the belief can't really be proven wrong.
How so?
Well, if you try to manifest something and it works, proponents say, see, the law works. If it doesn't work, they can say either you didn't believe strongly enough or you didn't take the right inspired action.
So it's always the person's fault, not the law.
Precisely. It's a non-falsifiable loop. It allows the philosophy to take credit when someone succeeds through, normal hard work and opportunity while still keeping that mystical element intact. It's a very resilient structure.
Okay, let's shift focus a bit. Why does this stuff feel so real to so many people? Obviously, the metaphysical claims don't hold up scientifically, but something is happening psychologically, right?
Absolutely. A lot of the perceived effectiveness can be explained by well-established psychological principles. It's not necessarily the universe bending to your will, but more about how these practices affect your own mind and behavior.
Like positive thinking.
Well, related, but we need to be careful. Positive psychology is a legitimate scientific field. It studies things like optimism, resilience, gratitude. And yes, research shows optimists tend to do better in life.
But why? Just because they're cheerful?
Not just that. Optimists are more likely to set goals, stick with them when things get tough, actively look for solutions, they take initiative. That's different from some passive low-A ideas where you just wait for things to appear.
Okay. And what about confidence? Things like affirmations. Do they actually work?
They can certainly boost self-efficacy, your belief in your ability to succeed. If you constantly tell yourself, I am capable, visualize success, you build confidence. That makes you more motivated, more willing to take risks, maybe perform better in interviews, things like that.
And feeling good probably helps too.
Definitely. Positive emotions trigger neurotransmitters like dopamine, serotonin. They make you feel good, more motivated, create a positive upward spiral. That's real neurochemistry.
So positive psychology explains some of it. What else is going on in our brains? Are there biases at play?
Oh, absolutely. Cognitive biases are huge here. Confirmation bias is a big one.
Remind me what that is again.
It's our tendency to look for, interpret, and remember information in a way that confirms what we already believe. So if you're trying to manifest, say, a specific type of car.
You suddenly start seeing it everywhere.
Exactly. You think, wow, it's a sign. The universe is showing me. But really, those cars were always there. Your brain, primed by your focus, is just noticing them now. It's filtering your reality to match your expectation.
That makes so much sense. It feels like magic, but it's just selective attention.
Pretty much. And related to that is the frequency illusion, sometimes called the Bader-Meinhof phenomenon.
Meinhof.
Yeah. Once you learn a new word or concept, you suddenly seem to encounter it everywhere for a little while. Your brain flags it because it's new and relevant to you. Again, it feels like an external pattern, but it's your internal attention shifting. Manifestation practices can definitely trigger this.
So confirmation bias, frequency illusion, any other big psychological hitters?
The self-fulfilling prophecy is another major one. Robert K. Merton, the sociologist, talked about this.
Where believing something makes it happen.
Essentially, yes. A prediction, just by being made, influences behavior in a way that makes the prediction come true. Manifestation practices are basically tools for creating strong, positive, self-fulfilling prophecies.
How does that work in practice?
Well, if you genuinely deeply believe you're going to ace a job interview, for instance, you'll likely project more confidence, maybe prepare more diligently, communicate more effectively, be more resilient if they ask a tough question.
And all that increases your actual chances of getting the job.
Exactly. You influence the outcome through your belief-driven behavior, not through cosmic attraction.
Okay, this is making a lot more sense psychologically. Now, sometimes you hear people bring up actual brain science, like the RAS. What's that about?
Yes, the reticular activating system. This comes up a lot. And the RAS is a real part of your brainstem. It acts like a filter or gatekeeper for all the sensory information flooding your brain.
So it helps you focus.
Kind of. By intensely focusing on a goal, like through visualization or affirmations, you are, in a sense, telling your RAS what's important. So it becomes more likely to flag relevant information or opportunities in your environment that you might have otherwise missed.
So it helps you notice opportunities, not create them out of thin air.
Precisely. And then there's neuroplasticity.
The brain changing itself.
Right. Our brains can physically reorganize themselves based on our experiences and thoughts. Repetitive practices like affirmations or visualization can strengthen certain neural pathways. Over time, thinking in that new desired way becomes more automatic.
So thoughts become things in the sense that they rewire your brain.
In a neurological sense, yes. They change your brain's structure and function, which then influences your behavior and perception, but not in the sense that thoughts directly manipulate external matter or events.
It sounds like what you called the pseudoscience two-step earlier.
Exactly. This is where it happens. Step 1. Make the big, unsupported metaphysical claim thoughts vibrate and attract things. That's the pseudoscience. Step 2. When challenged, pivot to real science. Talk about the RAS, neuroplasticity, confirmation bias. These are legitimate psychological and neurological concepts.
And the trick is conflating the two.
Yes. They present the evidence for the valid psychology, step 2, as if it somehow proves the faulty metaphysics. Step 1. It makes the whole package seem much more credible than it is. Very effective, very misleading.
All right, let's tackle the critiques head on now. Despite the psychological explanations for why it feels real, the scientific community isn't buying the core claims right.
Not at all. The law of attraction is widely considered pseudoscience. There's just no credible empirical evidence to support the idea that thoughts can directly influence external reality in the way Lowe claims.
And a big part of that is the misuse of scientific terms.
Absolutely. Terms like energy, vibration, frequency, especially quantum physics terms, are constantly misused and misapplied. Physicists are very clear that Lowe's use of these concepts is, well, nonsensical. It bears no resemblance to actual physics.
You even see basic factual errors in the literature sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Things like getting the charge of an electron wrong or making wild claims about thoughts physically burning brain cells. These kinds of fundamental mistakes are often red flags for pseudoscience.
And you mentioned earlier it's not falsifiable. That's a big problem scientifically, isn't it?
It's a fatal flaw from a scientific perspective. A real scientific theory has to be testable. There must be some conceivable outcome that could prove it wrong. Lowe is structured to avoid that.
Because success proves it right, and failure is just blamed on the practitioner.
Exactly. You didn't believe enough, you had hidden negative thoughts, you took the wrong action. It's circular reasoning. You can't disprove it, which means it's not operating in the realm of science.
So the evidence is just stories, anecdotes.
Overwhelmingly, yes. Personal testimonials, success stories, which are powerful emotionally, but scientifically meaningless. They're incredibly prone to confirmation bias, wishful thinking, and selection bias. People are much more likely to share successes than failures.
And no actual studies showing this attraction effect.
No peer-reviewed empirical studies demonstrating the core metaphysical claim. In fact, as I mentioned, some recent research actually links strong belief in manifestation with taking bigger financial risks, and even a higher correlation with bankruptcy. So the empirical data points the other way, if anything.
Wow. Okay, beyond the science, there's some pretty serious ethical concerns too. The dark side, as you called it.
Yes, and this is arguably even more important. The most damaging criticism is the inherent victim blaming.
Because if thoughts create reality, then the inescapable conclusion is that victims are somehow responsible for their own suffering. Illness, poverty, accidents, even abuse the logic dictates they must have attracted it through negative thoughts or low vibrations.
That's incredibly harsh and cruel.
It is. It absolves perpetrators, society, systems, and places the burden entirely on the individual who is already suffering. It can be profoundly re-traumatizing.
And it can lead to suppressing emotions too, right? This toxic positivity. Definitely. There's often this relentless pressure to be positive all the time. Negative emotions, sadness, anger, fear, grief are seen as dangerous. Things that will attract more bad stuff, so people try to suppress them, pretend they don't exist.
Which isn't healthy.
Not at all. Healthy emotional processing requires acknowledging and working through all emotions, not just the good ones. Living in fear of a negative thought is exhausting and counterproductive.
Another big critique is about privilege, isn't it? How Lowe seems to ignore the real world.
Yes, a massive blind spot. Loe often completely ignores systemic factors. Racism, sexism, poverty, lack of access to education or healthcare, disability. It promotes this hyper-individualistic view where everything comes down to your thoughts.
So if you're struggling, it's just your mindset, not, centuries of oppression or economic inequality.
That's the implication. And it's incredibly damaging because it dismisses legitimate obstacles and can discourage efforts towards real social change. Why fix the system if the problem is just in people's heads?
And this ties into the potential for exploitation.
It does. The unfalsifiable nature, the blaming of the follower when things go wrong, it creates fertile ground for gurus or coaches to take advantage of vulnerable people.
People looking for answers, maybe desperate.
Exactly. People dealing with serious illness, financial hardship, grief. They're looking for hope, for control. Loe offers simple answers. But when it inevitably fails for many, they're often told they failed. And the solution is more coaching, more books, more seminars, more money.
And sometimes it isolates people too.
In some more extreme groups or teachings, yes. Followers might be told to cut ties with skeptical friends or family because they represent negative energy that could hinder their manifestations. That's a classic high-control group tactic.
It feels like it can become a way to avoid dealing with real problems, internal or external.
That's often described as spiritual bypass, using spiritual ideas to avoid facing difficult emotional issues or complex societal problems. It provides easy answers and can justify apathy.
Okay, let's talk about the secret. It feels impossible to discuss modern manifestation without mentioning it. That book and film were just massive.
Absolutely huge. Released in 2006, it single-handedly turbocharged the law of attraction for the 21st century. But like we said, it wasn't new. It was a very slick, very effective repackaging of those old New Thought ideas, especially from Waddell's The Science of Getting Rich.
What made it so successful, do you think? The marketing.
The marketing was genius, framing it as a secret known only to history's elites that created immense mystique. And second, the intense focus on material wealth, luxury goods, tangible desires, that has undeniable mass appeal. It was aspirational on overdrive.
And the Oprah effect didn't hurt.
Oh, massively. Oprah's endorsement on her show was like pouring gasoline on the fire. She said it was the core message she'd been trying to share for years.
The numbers are just wild, weren't they?
Astronomical. Something like 30 million copies sold globally. Dozens of languages, hundreds of millions in revenue. It dominated bestseller lists. It wasn't just a book, it was a phenomenon.
It really embedded words like manifest and vibration into everyday language.
It absolutely did. But alongside that huge popularity came equally intense criticism.
From scientists, academics?
Yes, condemning the pseudoscience, the misrepresentation of physics, the magical thinking. And social critics hammered the ethical side, calling it selfish, narcissistic, a playbook for entitlement.
So it has this really mixed legacy.
Definitely. On one hand, a masterclass in marketing that revived a century-old philosophy. On the other, maybe Exhibit A for the excesses and potential harms of the self-help industry.
Okay, so to help clarify things for people, let's explicitly draw some lines. How is low A different from, say, positive psychology? Because they sound similar sometimes.
That's a crucial distinction, the absolute core difference. Low A is a metaphysical belief system. It claims thoughts physically alter external reality through unseen forces like vibration.
Metaphysical.
Positive psychology is a scientific field. It studies the psychological, behavioral, and physiological benefits of positive states, like optimism or gratitude, using empirical methods.
So different mechanisms.
Totally different. Loa talks about vibrational attraction. Positive psychology identifies concrete, evidence-based mechanisms, how optimism leads to perseverance, how gratitude impacts brain chemistry, how social connections improve well-being. It's grounded in observable reality.
And their view on negative thoughts is different, too.
Very different. Loai often pathologizes or fears negativity. Positive psychology recognizes that negative emotions are a normal, even necessary part of life. It also warns against toxic positivity or unrealistic optimism, which can be harmful. It seeks balance.
Okay, that's clear. What about manifestation goals versus just regular goal setting, like using SMART goals?
There's overlap, but the focus is different. Traditional goal setting is usually a conscious, logical process. You define an outcome, break it down, plan steps, focus on the external effort needed to achieve something.
Right, action-oriented.
Manifestation goals, while they might use similar clarity techniques, often emphasize engaging the subconscious mind. aligning your beliefs, emotions, your very identity with the goal. The focus is often more on becoming the person who has the thing rather than just doing the steps to get it.
So internal shift leading to external result, supposedly.
That's the idea. And ideally, manifestation is meant to come from a feeling of wholeness or gratitude, whereas traditional goals can sometimes be driven by a sense of lack or I need this to be happy.
Got it. And how does Loe stack up against mindfulness? They seem almost opposite.
In many ways, they are fundamentally opposed. Low A is intensely future-oriented and desire-focused. It requires attachment to specific outcomes. You have to want that thing and focus on getting it.
Whereas mindfulness is about the present.
Exactly. Mindfulness is present-oriented and emphasizes non-attachment. Observing your thoughts, feelings, and sensations right now without judgment, without clinging to desires or outcomes.
So, Loe wants you to control your thoughts to get something. Mindfulness wants you to just observe your thoughts without getting carried away.
Precisely. Low A treats thoughts as tools for creation and control. Mindfulness sees thoughts as transient mental events, like clouds passing in the sky. You notice them, but you don't have to identify with them or act on them.
Can they be combined? People talk about mindful manifesting.
Well, people try to combine them. Usually it involves using mindfulness techniques to quiet the mind or gain clarity before doing manifestation practices. But it's arguably a co-option. It borrows the legitimacy of mindfulness, but uses it in service of a goal attachment that fundamentally contradicts the core philosophy of mindfulness, which is non-attachment.
So this brings us back to that survival strategy you mentioned. Low A borrows credibility.
That seems to be a key part of its endurance, yes. The core claim thoughts attract matter is pseudoscientific and untestable. So to appear more robust and legitimate, it selectively borrows and recontextualizes ideas from respected fields.
It takes findings from positive psychology about optimism and says, see, attraction works.
Right. Or it rebrands standard goal-setting techniques as ways to align your vibration. Or it cherry-picks mindfulness practices while ignoring the conflicting philosophy.
It weaves these legitimate threads into its own metaphysical cloth.
Exactly. Which makes the whole thing look stronger, more holistic, maybe even like a blend of ancient wisdom and modern psychology. It broadens its appeal and makes it harder to dismiss outright for some people.
Okay, let's try to wrap this all up. We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have. So to synthesize, the law of attraction and manifestation, it's this really persistent cultural idea rooted way back in 19th century New Thought. It proposes that our thoughts have this metaphysical power to shape our reality.
But critically, the central claims lack scientific backing. It's widely seen as pseudoscience, often misusing scientific language.
Right. The reason it feels like it works for some people often comes down to established psychology. Things like positive psychology benefits, cognitive biases like confirmation bias, the self-fulfilling prophecy effect.
And neurological factors like how the RAS focuses attention, or how neuroplasticity lets us rewire thought patterns. These things are real, but they explain changes in us, not changes caused by us in the external world via magic.
Exactly. But alongside those potential psychological upsides, we have to acknowledge the serious ethical red flags.
The victim blaming, the toxic positivity, the complete disregard for systemic inequality, the potential for exploitation.
These are not minor issues. They represent real potential harm that this philosophy can cause or enable.
So while some techniques borrowed by manifestation might offer genuine psychological benefits, like getting clear on goals or focusing positively, the foundational premise remains unproven, and the ethical baggage is significant.
It endures, not because it's scientifically true, but because it taps into something deeply human, our desire for control, for meaning, for simple answers in a complicated world, and it's very adaptable.
So final thought for you, our listener, to maybe chew on?
Consider how that deep, very human desire for agency, for feeling like we have some control over our chaotic lives, might make all of us a little susceptible to belief systems that promise ultimate control. Even if sometimes that promise requires us to overlook some pretty inconvenient truths or uncomfortable ethical questions.